Welcome to episode 387 of the AMPM podcast. This week, my guest is Michael Kaufman. We're going to be talking about moving to Puerto Rico to save on taxes and to live a better life in paradise. Going to be talking about product inserts and what you can and can't do, and how he's successfully using product inserts to launch new products, to grow his brand, as well as a lot of other really cool stuff in this episode. I think you're going to really like it. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome to the AMPM podcast. Welcome to the AMPM podcast, where we explore opportunities in e-commerce.
We dream big and we discover what's working right now.
Plus, this is the podcast where money never sleeps, working around the clock in the AM and the PM.
Are you ready for today's episode?
I said, are you ready? Let's do this. Here's your host, Kevin King. Kevin King.
Michael Kaufman, welcome to the AMPM podcast. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Now, I think the last time I saw you in person, was that in Puerto Rico at BDSS?
I believe so, yeah, in person, yeah. I was on the virtual event, obviously, but yeah, in person was BDSS Puerto Rico.
And then since BDSS Puerto Rico, you liked Puerto Rico so much, you decided to actually move your entire family there, right?
Well, actually, my kids are old enough and have made the decision that they weren't going to move to Puerto Rico. So it's actually just my wife and I. We moved down. We've been here 5 weeks, and it's been pretty amazing. It's funny because when we came down for BDSS, it was blazing hot, of course, in June when we were down there. And I don't really like the heat, like if it's over 75, I'm sweating, So there was the panel, at BDSS talking about Act 60 and all the tax benefits and everything. And I thought, well, that sounds kind of interesting. Maybe we should. So I go home, I went back to the Airbnb and I'm telling Eileen, I'm like, hey, I heard this thing and there's this tax benefits and, Puerto Rico is pretty cool. I think we should move down here. And she looked at me like, like I was standing on the, the surface of the sun or something. She was like, are you insane? Do you feel how hot it is right now? You can't, 75 degrees, you're sweating. You can't move down here. But we did. We're here, so it's been amazing.
And where'd you move from?
So we were in Michigan. I've been in Michigan all my life. I've never lived anywhere else. Even college was still in Michigan. So besides traveling a little bit, I've never been really outside of Michigan.
So was the reason for moving, was it just for a change of scenery and change of weather and to be in the tropics? So was it for business or tax reasons? Well, after you heard that panel, just so those listening understand, back in June of 2023 at BDSS, I had a panel of 3 people. A guy from MDS, one of the guys hosts one of the big podcasts, and a couple other people that had moved to Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico has some tax advantages. I think it's like a 4% tax rate if you meet certain criteria and do certain things. So a lot of people that exit their company or are about to exit their company end up moving to Puerto Rico. And there's a huge, Puerto Rico is part of the United States. It's not a state, for those of you international that are listening. It's actually a territory, but they have it's kind of like a half state. They have certain rights. It's U.S. citizenship, but and they can vote in certain things, but they don't get certain other things. So it's a kind of a gray area. But there's a provision for taxes that allows you to only pay a 4% tax rate. So if you have a lot of capital gains or a big windfall of cash or something, a lot of people end up moving there. So there's a whole community, several of them actually, several pockets of communities where there's all these successful entrepreneurs from Amazon, from all walks of life, actually that are based there. Then they like it. They like the tropical living and the Latin flavor of it. So what was it that drew you there? Was it just the weather, or are you planning an exit?
A few things. One, we are planning an exit, and the capital gains savings was, of course, a big draw. And actually, the capital gains is 0% down here. So you pay a 4% corporate tax. Although I think a business that's under $3 million in revenue is actually 2% for the first 5 years. So it's actually even better than that. But then capital gains is 0. So we decided to move the business down here. And there's some caveats to that, because if you've been running the business for very long, the way that the IRS will run it is, let's say we'll take my business, for example. So ProTough Products, we've been selling pool tools for about 9 years on Amazon. And we're moving the business to Puerto Rico. But if all we did was just shift the entity to Puerto Rico, then what would happen is, let's say we exit in a year. The IRS would actually take that and they prorate it on a time basis. So what they would say is, let's say we exited for, we'll keep easy numbers. Let's say we exit for 10 million. The U.S. capital gains is 20%. Puerto Rico is 0%. Well, they would tax 9 years or 90% of that full $10 million sale. So 9 million of it at 20% and 1 million of it at 0%, which of course is not very helpful. So what we're actually doing is selling our entity to a Puerto Rican entity. We're going to pay the capital gains now on the value of our business because we actually expect a pretty significant change in valuation between now and when we exit, a year or two from now. And so we're just going to pay the capital gains up front to the U.S. and then we'll get 0% on all the gain that we have, after that. So a little tangent, but important. So mostly it was the capital gains and the tax benefits. But honestly, we drove down to Palmas del Mar, which is the community that we ended up in when we were down here in June. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. You can't believe, how beautiful it is down here, especially if you get up on like a mountain, kind of the side of a hilltop over here where you're kind of looking down, on the ocean, the beach line. It's just absolutely beautiful. So, between the two, I was like, if I don't have to be here in the really blazing hot portion of the summer and I can just be here for the majority of the year, I really, I can't beat it. So far,
are you planning on going? Did you keep your house in Michigan, or did you sell that? Or you plan on splitting your time, or what are you planning on doing?
So at the moment, we still have the house in Michigan, and we plan for now to keep it. Number one, we've got a couple of our kids who are still living there, but they're renting from us. That's one of the things is that you can't, whatever your primary residence is, it has to be Puerto Rico. And so if you have a house back in the States that you're not renting or something and you spend too much time there, then the U.S. might look a little bit askance at that. So we're renting that to our kids, and we will split our time. We'll probably be home for maybe 4 months out of the year. And then spend the rest of it either here in Puerto Rico or traveling around, around the world someplace.
So what's it like? You've been there now, what, you said about 5 months or so?
5 weeks. 5 weeks.
Oh, 5 weeks. 5 weeks. Sorry. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. So you haven't really fully gotten into the whole cycle of Latin and kind of it's quasi third world, but it's also first world. It's like a mix. Puerto Rico is one of those when it reminded me of being like somewhere like in Colombia, but with a United States twist. It has third world elements and it's very Latin elements, but it also had some first world stuff. How are you finding it so far in these first 5 weeks? As far as
it's interesting because like you said, there definitely are some third world kind of elements, especially if you get outside of the communities. Because with Maria having gone through here, even though it's been a fair amount of time since Maria, there are still a lot of homes and businesses that are all boarded up and closed up that got destroyed in Maria and haven't ever reopened. So there's still a lot of people who are in rough shape. It's actually one of the things that we've had a lot of conversations with a number of the entrepreneurs, down here in Palmas about is, things that we can do outside of the community to kind of help with that. It's like we feel like, we're here, we need to make sure that we're contributing. And of course, Act 60 requires you to contribute to a degree, but not a lot. It doesn't require a lot from you. So, it's really going to be those entrepreneurs who really take that initiative and say, no, we're here, we're taking advantage of this, we should really contribute more. But Palmas del Mar and Dorado, and there's a couple of other communities around the island, are very much kind of a bubble. So we're very self-contained. There's a lot. You literally could stay in the community and probably never leave if you didn't want to, and be okay. There's restaurants, there's, a small grocery store, there's just about everything you might really want is here in the community. But we're trying to make sure that we get out, heading out to El Yunque to do some hiking and things like that, and travel to some of the other cities around the island, just so that we can see, what the differential is. It's like if you stay in the bubble, you don't really know, you don't understand what's going on out there. So, I encourage people, we've only been here 5 weeks, but we're really trying to make sure that we're making the most of both being in the community and really kind of connecting to as many people here as we can, but also seeing what's out there outside the community.
Now, you said it's a very strong community of entrepreneurs. Are they mostly mainland Americans that have come there, or is it a mix of international people, or all entrepreneurs? And all what's the community like?
Yeah, I would say the majority certainly are entrepreneurs of some type. In Palmas del Mar, there's a fairly large contingent of Amazon sellers, but there's also plenty of other, individuals in different areas. I would say that it's it's an interesting mix because there are some that are just, Puerto Ricans who have, done kind of well for themselves here. Most of them are definitely U.S. mainland individuals. There is, from what I gather, we have like every couple of weeks, there's a meeting, that a bunch of the entrepreneurs from the community get together and we just kind of chat for a couple hours. But come to find out, there's actually, it's not Act 60, it's something else, but it's similar to Act 60 for Europeans. So there are actually a larger number of Europeans down here than I actually anticipated there would be. And I believe many of them are here under that, the European version, let's say, of Act 60, where they get tax benefits as well. But certainly, I would have to say at least 70%, are probably mainland US people.
What's the cost of living there for where you're at? I mean, you're in a little bit more premium, like gated kind of community, like you said. It's is there an entry level, like you need to have $1 million net worth to move in there? I know there's some houses in there that are tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
What do you need to kind of be to actually?
It's interesting because there's quite a wide range. As you said, there's definitely houses in here that are, maybe 10, 15, million. There's others that are more like, 1 or 2, 3 million. But then there's a whole bunch of condos in smaller places, that you can get for, 5, 6, 700,000. There's even some smaller condos, I think, that'll run you maybe a few $100,000. So you really could get into the community for a fairly low investment, as long as you don't set your standards super high in terms of like where you're living, in terms of the amount of space that you want, or how high end all of the amenities in your residence are. Some of those condos are kind of old, but if you really just want to be here and you'd like to take advantage of the tax benefits and you want to be able to connect, with this kind of community of entrepreneurs, you don't really have to be a millionaire, to be here. Like you could be of significantly less net worth. And I think you could still pull it off. And I honestly do believe that the biggest benefit of being here isn't actually the tax benefits. It's going to be the connections that I'm making with a lot of the people here, and many of the, investment opportunities that come up, the strategies that, that people, like, I can't tell you the number of things that I've learned just from going to this, gentleman bosses meeting every couple of weeks, that I never would have known, if I wasn't here, in a part of that community that I think, are honestly going to change our life, financially. So, I highly recommend it.
So what? You haven't gone through a hurricane season though yet, so you can't recommend it because you haven't gone through a hurricane season. So let's give it another year or two and see. It's a little different than some cold winds in Michigan.
Well, and that's one of the things, where it would be like, because there's plenty of rentals. Like right now, we're just renting, and probably will be for a little while. We're just waiting for the right place to come along. And so you can come down here and rent. It's not, I wouldn't say it's cheap, but at the same time, rather than investing, a few $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million in a place, you can rent something for, a couple of grand, a few grand down here. Again, as long as you're not setting your sights, super high. And then at least you don't own something that's going to get destroyed, say in a hurricane or something like that. Like you can leave if it looks like there's something coming this way, you can get out of Dodge. And, you don't really have any ties here that you have to worry about being damaged and, going through insurance and all that kind of thing. So, it's an option.
So since you said you're renting, did you feel like you moved there, or do you feel like you're just on an extended vacation and brought 2 or 3 suitcases of clothes, or did you actually bring a lot of personal effects and stuff to fill this place out, or are you starting all over?
We pretty much only brought clothes. It's a full, fresh start down here. I am very confident and comfortable that we plan on staying. So I would say certainly for the first 2 or 3 weeks, it felt like it was just kind of an extended vacation. I mean, it's hard not to, to walk out and see this view every morning and not feel like you're on vacation. But I'm starting to settle into it. It's starting to feel more like, just this is home. And so, but both Eileen and I are very comfortable here. We love the people, and I feel pretty confident that we're going to stick around. So. Now,
Amazon delivery there is not next day or same day. It's like was it like 4 to 6 days or something, right? It has to come out of Miami, right? There's not even a Amazon warehouse in Puerto Rico, I don't think, right?
No, there isn't. And it's probably, I would say 4 to 6 is about right for most things. Some things it's taken, over a week, maybe 10 days to get, but most of it's probably 4 to 6 days, which, I mean, when you're used to 1 or 2 day or even same day, that's a tough pill to swallow, but we're getting used to it though.
So the company that you moved there, so you are setting up a new entity in Puerto Rico, and you got to hire a couple Puerto Rican people to actually meet some of the tax requirements, right?
Well, technically, actually, as long as I'm on the payroll as an employee of the company, that counts. As long as I change my residence to Puerto Rico, so there's two portions of Act 60 that we're taking advantage of. One of them is the Export Services Act, which is in relation to the business, and that's the corporate tax, dropping to that 4% or 2% level. The other aspect of it is called the individual investor portion. And that is specific to myself and to my wife. And that's where the capital gains comes in and some other benefits. And so as long as you're doing the individual investor portion and changing your actual residence to Puerto Rico, then you technically can be that employee and you only have to have one. I would recommend maybe that you consider hiring at least one other Puerto Rican, but you don't have to. You from what I understand, you can be the actual Puerto Rican employee. So we're shifting the business down here. It's kind of a little bit of a complex tax setup. You definitely want to have somebody involved who knows what they're doing with Act 60 and stuff. But that's the setup right now as we're shifting it. And then, like I say, we're hoping within 12 to 18 months we'll do the exit.
So the company is, you said earlier, it's ProTuff, right? And that company, when did you start that company?
So yeah, it's ProTuff Products, Protuff, and started that about 9 years ago on Amazon. I've been in e-commerce.
It started as an Amazon company?
Yeah.
So did you do like one Amazing Selling Machine or one of those type of things?
Yeah. So essentially what it was, so I've been in e-commerce literally almost 30 years. I mean, like I started on AOL, dial-up was the beginnings of my e-commerce, operations. But then I would say like 12 years ago, at that point, I had been selling for a multi-level marketing company for quite a number of years. I was doing relatively well with it, but I was a little bit concerned with the direction the company was moving in terms of what the compensation structure might be and whatnot. So I started dabbling in some other options. I did, Teespring t-shirts, and I did, a number of other things, which were all marginally successful, but not enough to really replace my current income. And so then, like you said, Amazing Selling Machine came along. I watched their, 3 or 4 part free webinar series, and they made their pitch, hey, pay us another, $3,500 and we'll teach you the rest. And, I just decided I'd been in e-commerce long enough. I thought they probably had given me enough information already. So I didn't actually buy the program. Nothing against their program. A lot of people did purchase it and they've done really well with it. So I'm not saying anything negative about it. I just decided I didn't think I needed it. And so I kind of just branched out on my own, went looking for a product. And, in the early days, I didn't really know how successful it was going to be, of course. So I wasn't ready to invest a lot of time and money and effort in, redeveloping a product or coming out with new features or things like that. So for me, the simplest solution was I knew I needed to differentiate in some way within our category. And so the lifetime warranty was the simplest thing I could think of that I could implement immediately, and see what kind of success we could have with it. So that's where we started. And it's really actually been our bread and butter ever since the beginning. So
what category is ProTuff in?
Yeah, we sell pool cleaning tools, so telescoping pool poles, brushes, nets, skimmers, that sort of thing. And everything has an unlimited free replacement lifetime warranty. So that's kind of been our claim to fame.
Is it a seasonal business, or since it's pool? So do you have big drop-offs like during the wintertime?
For us, it's incredibly seasonal, partly because we have stayed U.S. We haven't moved into other markets. We considered moving into Australia and into portions of Europe this last year, but because we were looking at an exit, I was a little nervous that the time horizon wasn't long enough for us to actually start making enough profit from that move to make it worth it. So we didn't end up going that route. And since we're only the U.S., when it's winter, we're pretty much only selling in Florida, Southern Texas, Southern California. Everything else is shut down. So we sell
Puerto Rico.
yeah, fair enough. But we sell about half of our total sales volume in 3 months, and then the rest of it we sell over the remaining 9 months.
So how are you going to deal with this new, what just went into effect on March 1st with this new inventory scoring based on days of stock and stuff? Because I would think that as a seasonal business, you want to minimize your amount of inventory for storage fees and for everything during the slow periods, and then you're going to want to wrap it up. But if you don't keep a certain level of stock in there, which may be over and above what you would have normally done, it's going to affect you, and it's going to almost penalize you for when you actually, it is your high season, because it's those numbers go in arrears and affect you going forward. So what's your plan of dealing with? That's a big topic right now. A lot of discussion boards and people dealing with. I'm not talking about the splitting to 4 different warehouses. I'm talking about the in stock, out of stock fees.
Yeah, so there's a few things with that. One is we have actually decided to test out SKU Drop and kind of work with their system for leaving a lot of our inventory over there and then shipping it in smaller quantities toward Amazon. Part of the reason for that is that we have been struggling getting shipments into Amazon right now. But the other thing
when
is
you say
that
struggling, you mean just delays, or what do you mean by struggling?
Yeah, delays. So we actually, in fact, we just had a shipment that we had sent in almost 4 weeks ago, and it's been sitting with Amazon waiting to check in, for 2.5, 3 weeks, and ordinarily, I mean, yes, that can be problematic, but with the previous way that things were done, you could at least deal with it, but now because of the low end and the high end fees, in terms of storage, it becomes a really delicate balance. And so it's very frustrating, that Amazon would institute that even when they know, as well as we know, that they're struggling right now, with getting inventory in and everything being timed properly. So it makes it really hard on sellers. I think the best thing that you can do, honestly, and it's what we're trying to do, is just make sure that our margin is large enough that we can accommodate some fees. If your margins are too low, you're just getting squeezed too hard. I really do think that, especially for a seasonal business, it's going to be nearly impossible to meet Amazon's requirements in terms of the minimum and the maximum, inventory levels without getting nailed with those fees. And so if your margins are too low, you're going to get squeezed so hard that you won't be able to come out on the other side of it. So if there's any one message that I've got for people, it's make sure that you're selling with a pretty good margin so you've got room for error there.
What percentage do you work on, or what X multiple do you work on your landed cost versus sell price margins?
As an example, our landed cost on our pole is $40. And we're selling that for, we're adjusting our price a little bit right now. We have been selling at $175, but we're looking to push that probably over $200. Right now we're sitting at $225, and we're going to see how that number sits, which is way higher than anybody else in our category. I mean, we're selling, if we're at $225, we're probably at 6x what most other sellers are selling at in that category. But again, we're offering an unlimited free replacement warranty, so we have to be able to account for that. So our multiples are pretty high. And I think that a lot of businesses could do that. I think that almost every product out there could offer either a really extreme warranty or a really extreme guarantee. And they probably could do exceedingly well with it as long as they stood behind it. And I mean that because you've got durable goods and then you've got non-durable. So obviously non-durable goods like supplements and things like that, warranty doesn't really make sense. I mean, technically you could say, yeah, we offer a warranty, right? But the wording doesn't make sense. But if you say guarantee, then that makes perfect sense. People understand guarantee with a non-durable good. And so I just look at it as, if you were to look at what the rest of your product vertical is doing, and you said, okay, everybody else in my category offers, let's say, a 3-month, guarantee. Let's say it's a non-durable good. It's a guarantee, and that wouldn't likely be true, but let's just say it is. Everybody else is offering 3 months. you could then say, okay, I'm going to offer a year, like on everything. And I'm going to advertise that on my listing, which is extreme compared to everybody else. But it's believable. Like, it's not limitless. That's the one thing I think we screwed up, is when I said unlimited free lifetime replacement, right? There's no limit to that. So number one, it's not believable. Now today it's believable because we've got, thousands of 5-star reviews. So we've got credibility behind us. But if you're a new brand or you don't have very many reviews, you don't have that credibility. So you can't afford for it to be limitless. But if you put a limit on it, but it's an extreme limit compared to everybody else, so it's extreme, but it's also believable, then I think you've got a leg to stand on there. And as long as you stand behind it and you make it really easy for people to take advantage of it, you'll get tons of really good reviews, and you can sell it at a considerably higher price point, I think, than most other sellers can.
Have you ever considered actually having a variation where you're selling it for your $200 or whatever the price point is, $175, $200 price point right now, and then you have a second variation that's the exact same product, but you add $9.95 or $19.95 to it for the actual warranty? You get a basic warranty with the original, and then you do an upgraded warranty, which is basically the same thing, just to get that margin up. Because the reason I ask this is, in my calendar business, on our order form that we send out by mail, we have an option, right, where you subtotal. You fill out the little form and you add up what you want, and it has got a little subtotal column. And then right before it's where you add in the shipping. You look at a chart, and right before that right after that is a box that says insurance with an asterisk, and I pre-fill in $4 onto the column, and you can scratch it out, or you can say no and not add that $4 in. But by pre-filling that in, it basically covers any damage in shipment. So if your calendars arrive damaged, they get lost or stolen, whatever. But that $4 adds tens of thousands of dollars to our bottom line every single year, and I probably have to replace 2 orders. So it's a 100% pure profit. So that's why I was asking you if you've ever tested something like that.
Well, so 2 things on that. One, I would say, so getting into the numbers, like you said, how much profit that adds and how few times you actually have to, fulfill on it, right? So I would say that most sellers think they'll have to do far more replacements than they actually will have to do. So they really get scared about offering, a very extreme warranty in terms of the cost. But just to give you an idea, so again, we offer unlimited free replacements. Now we try to do parts as much as we can because it's obviously a lot cheaper. But last year, so 2023, I just calculated the numbers because we did have somebody interested in a purchase of the business and they wanted to know. Our warranty replacements in 2023, the total expense for them accounted to 3% of profits, or 3% of revenue, rather. So a higher percentage of profits, but still 3% is not too bad. But next year, because we're going to a more modular version of one of our products that actually gets the most replacements on it, we'll be down to 2%, actually 1.75%. So that in and of itself, for me, that's just marketing expense because we get so much word of mouth out of that warranty that it's way worth that 1.75% for sure, the reviews that we get and all of that. But going back to the comment that you made about, have we considered that? What we're actually considering is the reverse of that. So with our product, we're already at unlimited free replacement, right? So we can't really go bigger than that. However, what we want to do is we want to get more volume. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to keep our unlimited replacement version at the price point that we're at, but then we're going to sell like a 2-year version at a much lower price point. We're probably going to actually change the feature set just a little bit. So it's not just the warranty that they're getting that's better. It's actually going to have a little bit different feature set, but essentially the same product at a 2-year. And then what we'll do is hopefully, because we can sell it at a lower price point, which means we can get better ranking on Amazon, we can get more throughput, so we can actually use that as our volume seller. And then those people on the back end, as you suggested, we can then offer an upgraded warranty, maybe the lifetime warranty for an extra, X number of dollars. And I'm sure a certain percentage of them will take advantage of that. So not only do we get the higher volume at the lower price point, but then we also can get the back end sale without paying an Amazon referral fee or anything on that, additional cost. So we're going to test that this year. I think it's going to go pretty well.
So on a pole, like you said, this is one of those big poles where it has a net or something on the end where you're fishing out the stuff out of the
Yeah.
pool, the leaves and whatever. What goes
Yep.
wrong on a pole? Why does someone return a
So
pole?
yeah, so there's a couple of one. Sometimes the handles give out, so we've got a more. It's a very comfortable foam type. It's a TPV handle. It's like a rubberized foam. It's much more comfortable than most handles, but it also will wear out eventually. So we have to replace those. But that's a part. We can send that as a part. Our locking mechanism can break down. We can send a new locking mechanism out that they can easily change out. And sometimes the pole will bend or it'll get a dent in it, so then it won't telescope properly. And then the only other thing that happens is at the other end of the pole, there's little eyelet holes, which is how you attach your tools at the end. Those eyelet holes can break out at the end. And so in that case, we oftentimes will have to replace the pole. We actually will tell customers, because there's an option for them, that they can actually cut off the end of the pole and just drill some new eyelets, and it basically becomes a brand new pole. You'd be surprised at the number of customers that are totally willing to do that because they don't want to just throw the pole away, and they don't want you to have to spend the money to send them a new pole when essentially it's fine, but they don't want to do it until you tell them it's okay, because then of course they're afraid they'll void warranty, or whatever. So a lot of customers will go that route, but those are the primary problems we have.
So you don't make them send any of these parts back. They just call you up and say, "Hey, this is damaged," and so you're minimizing the hassle for them.
We minimize the hassle for us.
You send that, yeah, that too. Did you make them send pictures so that you can at least see if you got an issue of something that you need to talk to your factory about, or just no? Okay.
Nothing. Now we do it. What we have found is a fairly large percentage of our customers will type a note into the claim saying what happened. So we have that information for a lot of the claims that come through anyways. But we don't require anything. We don't require an explanation. We don't require pictures. We don't require a return of anything. And honestly, that does a few things for us. So we have for a long time, I had a customer service rep. Well, I mean, for a long time I did it, but then I hired somebody on as a customer service rep, and she would process all of these warranty claims. But the thing was, what I realized early on was that if we just say yes virtually every time, we're going to get a 5-star review from virtually every claim that we process. And those 5-star reviews are really valuable, not just because of the 5-star, but because generally speaking, it's a glowing review, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs, there's pictures and video and the whole 9 yards, right? So it's just more credibility for our product and for our brand. So when it became obvious that that was true, I basically just told the customer service rep, look, unless there's something obviously that's a problem here, like they've requested 5 replacements in the last year, or some stupid thing, just approve every single one of them, just put it through. But then not too long after that, I was like, okay, so if I'm just going to rubber stamp every single warranty, why do I have a customer service rep who's actually involved in that process? Why am I paying them an hourly fee to process all of this? It ends up taking, maybe a day or 2 or 3 if it's over a weekend or something for the customer to know that they've been approved. I'm just backing up the process. So then we went to using a chatbot flow that essentially was an automated flow. We just asked for their order number. They gave it to us. What address do you want us to ship the replacement to? And the whole process was automated. It would just do an MCF order, which worked out pretty well. I mean, chatbots can be a little bit clunky sometimes, but it wasn't too bad. But now we have our own internal system that we use, which actually we'll be rolling out. We're doing a closed beta on that right now for some other Amazon sellers. But it's an automated system that keeps all of it in a database. You get all of the customer data and everything, but it just makes the process super simple for customers and super simple for your customer service reps. So now a claim for one of our customers literally takes about 90 seconds to process from start to finish. And at the end of that 90 seconds, they get an approval that says, hey, claim approved. A couple of days, your product's going to show up on your doorstep. It automatically goes into Amazon's system as an MCF order. Amazon ships it out, and we don't do anything. And about 95% of our claims are processed that way.
So you're not using a 3PL to send out these parts. You're storing extra parts at Amazon. Do you sell those as a optional part too, or are they just stored there and just not for public sale, and you just have Amazon ship them out as your 3PL?
So to clarify, on parts, most of those parts are of no value for any other product out there, and we don't sell them as parts because we give them as free replacements. So if it's a part, we actually do use, generally speaking, we use 3PLs for that, because otherwise then we're taking up inventory at Amazon for no reason and they don't like it. It just kind of sits there for a little while. So we do use 3PL for that. But for if it's an entire unit, an entire pool rake or a pool pole or something like that, then most of that goes through Amazon. Now, I will say that FBA fees have gotten to a point, and 3PLs have gotten to a point where the price differential is really kind of closed, where there are actually some products now that we can ship less expensively through a 3PL than we can through Amazon. So we're actually looking at utilizing 3PLs for more of that shipping than just parts now, since that pricing is kind of equalized, let's say.
So are you doing top line? You doing 7 figures, 8 figures? Where are you at top line?
We're mid 7 figures right now. We anticipate being 8 figures for 2024.
And in this warranty thing that you said you've automated the system, and you've developed something there that you're actually going to be allowing other sellers to use. Is it a warranty claims automation system, or exactly what is the system that you're setting up?
So I would say that at its core, it is a warranty registrations and claims management system. But if you're talking about it in terms of the benefits to your brand, then I would say that it's a list building and customer engagement system. Because the idea behind it really is, A, make the process super easy for your customers so they're going to love you. But then B, because you've made it so easy and because you're gaining that customer data from them, now you can follow up with them. So it's really about list building. So we get about 30% of our Amazon orders result in a registration of the warranty. So essentially 30% of our customers end up on our list. We get about a 50% open rate on our emails, makes our product launches super easy. It's been a terrific process for us. I mean, we can ask our list for anything. They're really loyal to our brand. So it's like when we're having a problem with, like when we're getting targeted, by competitors on Amazon with negative reviews, we literally can just send out an email to our list and say, hey, we've got a target on our back. If you haven't left us a review, would you? We don't even have to say, go leave us a 5-star review, because everybody who's on the list wants to give us a 5-star. We can just say, go leave us a review. And that's what they do. In fact, we now have, because this is true all year long, we actually have one email in our automated sequence that goes out to subscribers that literally says, we have a target on our back. If you haven't left us a review yet, would you please go leave us a review? And we actually get a lot of reviews just from that automated email that goes out. And we hold it back, for a little while. So they've been on our list for a while before it goes. But
how many SKUs are in the product line?
We actually have a total of 18 sellable SKUs, but many of those are variations. So essentially we have 5 products with a lot of different variations of those products.
When you launch a new product, when you said you're using the list to launch a new product, would that be like the 6th product or a different variation of something?
Normally it would be a brand new product, not a variation. And actually this year we'll probably launch as many new products this year as we have launched since the beginning of the company. Mostly because we had a lot of products that have kind of been in the pipe, but I've been the bottleneck for getting them launched. And so we just haven't been able to launch very quickly. And that'll change this year. But the launches that we have done, the nice thing is that launches are super organic for us and they're very profitable. So whereas most brands kind of anticipate and expect to lose money on a launch in order to get ranking, we don't do that. Like, we make good money on a launch. And so our process essentially is we decide on a product that we think, our customers would want. And then we email the list and we say, hey, this is the product that we're thinking of launching next. Is that a product that you'd be interested in? And we use that poll to determine whether we're going to move forward or whether we're not. Then the next email says, hey, looks like everybody, or at least a good portion of you are interested in this product. If we were going to release it, and that we're going to do it with an unlimited free replacement warranty, like it's going to be a pro tough product, what are the other things that you would want to see? What features would you want to see? What do you think are the crappiest features of other products that you'd like us to improve on? What's your wish list of features? Even things that you don't think are even possible for this product. Like you can't imagine how you could engineer it, but if you could, you'd want it. What would it be? And we send that email out and we take all that information back. We decide what the features are going to be that we're going to add to this product, right? Then we go into our stage of development, of figuring out, okay, which ones can we, which ones can't we? Once we've got what we think is a solid prototype, we contact our list. Who wants to beta test? Who's not going to raise their hand, right? So we get a bunch of beta testers. We can send those out. We get the results back. And again, this process just continues to iterate through that whole thing until we finally have a product that we know is ready. And then we're going to send a message out saying, hey, product's going to launch in 2 months. Be ready for that. We'll be, running a drip contest, whatever. Once the product is ready and we've got it in stock, we can drip to whatever portion of our list we know we need for a launch, because we essentially know what our open rates are going to be at this point. We know essentially about what kind of response rate we're going to get in terms of the number of orders that we're going to get. So I know, we've got 35,000 people on our list, but I don't have to email all of them. I can email 5,000 of them, and I know I'm going to get enough orders out of that. I just drip that over 10 days, and I'll offer a 15% discount. And
what are you doing to actually get people, when they get the product, to make sure that they see they need to register for the warranty? Is it a huge sticker somewhere that they have to physically take off to use the product so they can't miss it? Is it a big flyer? Is it a little postcard or a business card? What are you doing to actually get that 30% to actually opt in?
My biggest recommendation, well, I'll tell you what we do, and then I'll tell you why we do it and what my biggest recommendation would be to other sellers. So we're fortunate because our product is such that, our products are such that essentially every single one of them is useless by itself. And what I mean by that is, if I sell a pool net, it's useless without the pole because it attaches to a pole. It doesn't even have to attach to ours. It can attach to anybody's, but the point is it still has to attach to a pole. The same thing is for the pole. If I sell a pole, it's of no use unless they attach it to a brush or to a net or something, right? So all of those products have holes in the end. So the pole has holes in the end because that's how you attach it. The rake and the brush and things like that will have holes in the end of the handle. So what we decided to do, originally we were just including an insert. In fact, for a while, we had a little trifold brochure, which it didn't do too bad. It was reasonably good, response rates. But I decided at one point that I was afraid that there were too many people who didn't have to interact with the insert or the brochure, and so they didn't. It just stayed in the package. And so I was trying to figure out, what would be the mechanism that would make sure that a customer has to interact with our insert. And the simplest solution for us was to make it a hang tag. So we've got a little plastic loop that goes through those holes and it attaches to the hang tag. They literally can't use the product unless they remove that because they can't insert the tool in the end. So they have to remove it. They have to interact with it. What's also nice about a hang tag is that it is by default a really good split testing opportunity because you don't know which side of that tag they're going to see first and what's going to catch their eye. It's very random. So for us, we use that as a split testing opportunity. So we have a different message on each side of the insert of the hang tag. And then we've got a different QR code on each side. So we can track which one gets the most scans. Then, of course, obviously, we can split test our landing page to see which one's getting the best result. But I will say, when we went to the hang tag versus having the brochure, and the brochure was pretty big. So the hang tag is like this big. Our brochure was, like this. It was pretty big. We doubled our response rate overnight when we went to the hang tag versus the brochure. And in my opinion, it's simply because they have to interact with the hang tag. If I had one recommendation, it would be make sure the customer doesn't have a choice but to interact with whatever it is that you're putting in there that you want them to do something with. Make them interact with it.
No, that's a really good point because so many people just put a little business card or they just put a little card in there and it just gets, when I get packages, I just throw that stuff away unless I'm curious to see what someone's doing, if they're, that stuff just, I don't even look at it. But when you have to take it off and when you have to, the sticker's in the way or the hang tag's in the way of using the product, it forces people. That's really good. What do you say though? There's a lot of misinformation out there about using inserts or actually putting something in your package to actually get people to come to your website or to get their name and email address. There's a ton of misinformation, including by some of the top people in the space that are respected, that I believe are giving false and misleading information when it comes to this. I've been doing inserts for years, for 15, 20 years, never had a problem. I do a free plus shipping offer. Where I think the problem is, and I've talked to some of the suspension people about this too, is they say, no, you shouldn't do it. I'm like, no, let's back up here. Let's actually get the details. Don't just blanketly say, no, you shouldn't do it. What are you actually doing? And I was like, obviously, most people know you can't incentivize for a review. You can't put your packaging or your insert card in your product photography that has a URL or QR code when it's on Amazon. Amazon doesn't want, when they're saying don't redirect traffic off of Amazon, that is primarily what they're referring to, is don't put that in your product imagery where there's a URL or a QR code or something that can be visible in the imagery of the product or in your listing. But in the actual package, putting something in there that incentivizes reviews is against Amazon's terms of service, whether that be, if you like the product, leave us a review. If you have a problem with the product, please email us. That's incentivizing reviews. That's affecting the review. That's a no-no. Or we love to hear from reviews of our customer, and you put just the little 5 stars and that's all you do. That's incentivizing. That's inferring that you should leave us 5 stars. Those kinds of things you can't do. If you take them to a warranty page and it's totally clean, and then the next thing you do in the next email or 2 emails down the sequence is you try to get them you incentivize them somehow for a review, that you can't do. Amazon will follow those through. But if you're just doing a legitimate thing, like I use it to get rid of excess inventory, it's $10, free plus shipping. It's send me, congratulations, you want a free calendar, because calendars are like selling milk, and they go out of style. In 2020, when it's middle of 2024, no one really wants to pay full price for a 2024 calendar when half the year's gone. So I always have one of the calendars. It's a guessing game of how many to print, and so inevitably I have excess stock. So I say, get a free calendar and just pay $10 in shipping and handling. It's going to be totally random. You might get the one that you just ordered. If so, it makes a great gift. But I'm getting highly qualified leads because they're paying me $10, which is half price for the calendars, because we sell them for $20. And I liquidate, my cost on those is $1.60 roughly, and it cost me about $6 to send those out. So $8. I actually made $2 on a very highly qualified lead. Nothing wrong with that. And what you're doing, where you're offering the warranty and get them to register, it's totally okay. What do you say to those people that frown on you when you post that something? Oh, you're not allowed to do that. You can't be doing that. What do you say to those people? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say that I feel like most of those individuals, they mean well, right? Like, I think they ultimately really do just want to keep people out of hot water, and they really do believe that there's the potential for a problem there. And what I would say is, I don't believe that it's an issue with TOS. I believe that if you read it carefully, I would say that I basically agree with the position that you just took, that redirecting off of Amazon is a no-no. So if you have included it in an insert or a product package or whatever, and you've intentionally then taken a photo of that or put that on your listing to do so, you're going to run into a problem. Again, same thing with packaging that incentivizes a review in any way, or even post response, like say in your follow-up sequence, incentivizes a specific type of review is also a problem. But if that's not what you're doing, then you're good. And I would also say, if you took a step back and you thought about it for just 2 seconds, it really doesn't make too much sense, because all of the big players, like any big brand, offers a warranty on their products. And they offer a registration. They want a registration for that warranty. Many of those products are sold on Amazon. How do you think they're getting people to register those warranties? There's something in the package that encourages them to register the warranty. How many items have you bought on Amazon from a major brand that didn't have something in the package that encouraged you to register a warranty? If you really think that Amazon's going to come after you for that, I think you're mistaken. I don't think that's true. And I also would say, if you're really that concerned about it, then make sure it's not visible. Amazon's not in there opening up all of your packages to see what kind of an insert is inside. Like if it's in a clear poly bag and you put something in there, well, maybe they might scrutinize that a little bit. I still don't think they're likely to, but if you're concerned about it, make sure it's inside of a box that they can't see through and it's on the inside. But at the end of the day, I look at it as Amazon wants me to take good care of my customer. The best way that I can do that is to fulfill on the warranty promise that I've made. And the only way that I can do that is if they can register their warranty so that I have a way to communicate with them and they have a way to communicate with me. They can file a claim. Like that's how that process works. Amazon is not going to make a stink about that issue as long as you're not doing some of those other things. And again, we ask for reviews, but we never present that in such a way as to suggest that it should go one way or another. We're not trying to dissuade them from leaving a negative review by catching them on the front end in some way. We're not trying to encourage the positive review. We just say, hey, if you haven't left us a review, leave one. We know they're going to give us a 5-star review 99% of the time because we treat them so well, but we're not asking for that.
So now you've been selling. You just moved to Puerto Rico. You're launching a warranty service to help streamline the process for sellers. What's the name of that? Or you said it's in beta right now, right?
It's in beta right now. The name is actually going to be registered, although we don't really have anything out there public yet. People could connect with me through LinkedIn or on WhatsApp or something. And if they're interested in beta testing it, we are building a list for public beta that should be starting soon. So if that was something that interested them, they could get in touch. But again, that's not public yet. And then we do also, on that same vein, along the lines of, brand building and list building and customer engagement and that sort of thing. Myself and John Stojan and Matt Atkins have put together Brand Fortress HQ, which is just a new consulting program that we're running. We've started a podcast in relation to that, which is just Brand Fortress HQ podcast. So if you're interested in doing some of the things that we've been doing with ProTough products and really building that customer engagement and that brand loyalty, we're teaching everything that we do, through that podcast and through that mentoring program. So.
The podcast, I'll actually be on that podcast soon. I believe we have something scheduled for me to be on there. So what do you got? What are you covering on that? Is it strictly for Amazon sellers? Is it for e-commerce in general, or what are you guys? What's the focus?
I would say, as a rule, it is generally very Amazon centric. Certainly, as we all know, as Amazon sellers, many of the things let's put it this way. Many of the things that you should be doing in your Amazon business are very similar things to what you should be doing in any e-commerce business. And if you're not doing many of those things that e-commerce businesses in general should be doing, you're probably doing it wrong. And you're not really building a brand. So yes, we're Amazon centric, but I would say definitely there's a lot of juice there and a lot of meat for individuals who aren't necessarily selling Amazon or doing mostly D2C. There's certainly some good information there. But if you're an Amazon seller, it's definitely more specifically, focused on you.
So that's called Ecom Fortress?
Brand Fortress HQ.
Oh, sorry. Brand Fortress HQ.
Yep.
Awesome. So if people, make sure you check that out, Brand Fortress HQ, or if anybody wants to reach out to you, like you said, on LinkedIn, how can you tell them how to do that? How do you spell your name, just for those that don't know?
Yeah. So Michael Kaufman, Kauf as in Frank, MAN. You can search for my name or search for our ProTough Products brand. That again is PROTUFF, products with an S at the end, and you'll find it.
Awesome, Michael. Appreciate you coming on the AMPM podcast. It's been fun.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. I appreciate being here.
And I guess I'll see you in Hawaii, right?
Absolutely. Eileen and I will be there for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Great stuff as usual with Michael there. Michael's going to be joining us in Hawaii for $1 Billion Seller Summit, so I hope you're able to join us too. All the information's at billiondollarsellersummit.com. And don't forget, also I have a free newsletter that comes out every Monday and Thursday with lots of actionable tips and strategies for Amazon and e-commerce sellers. You can find that at billiondollarsellers.com. So billiondollarsellersummit.com is for coming to Hawaii with us, and billiondollarsellers.com is the free newsletter. Hopefully you'll sign up for one, if not both of those. We'll be back again next week with another great episode. But before we leave today, I've got some great words of wisdom for you. Who knows you is more important than who you know. So go out there and build a brand. Who knows you is more important than who you know. Go out there and build a brand, and we'll see you again next week.